Welcome to the Nerd Party.
It can travel anywhere in time and space.
Off we go into time and space.
So all of time and all of space is sitting out there.
Welcome to Time and Space, one married couple's adventure through the Doctor Who universe. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm Phillip Gilfus, her ever-constant companion.
Yes, always constant.
Lee here.
Yes.
I don't know, a lot of new Doctor Who news, at least between us. There's obviously new Doctor Who news out in the universe. I know sort of at least on Doctor Who Twitter, the two big items with the new issue of Doctor Who Monthly. I was like, what does the M stand for? That's obviously got to be it. Doctor Who magazine, possibly. But anyway, that I read on my tablet was the introduction of a new time team. What this is, Jessica, because she's giving me the look. Yep. Of course, I say this. I don't know what it was either. But apparently, back in the day, I don't know if they've done one or two, but I think that maybe this is the third iteration, throughout all of this magazine's history. They'll have a group of people watch Classic Who and write articles about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember. I just read the article the other day, but I've already flushed it all in my mind. One group watched all of them and took them 5 years or whatever. They would do every magazine. Anyway, but this new group, and it's a lot of young folks, a very diverse young group, millennials and everything. They're not going to watch all of them. But I think it's going to be thematic. Like for instance, in this first issue, it was First Doctor episodes. So I think they watched Rose, they watched Spearhead from Space, the Third Doctor one that we watched, the Third Doctor's first episode, and I'm trying to remember another one. But it was interesting because, I don't know, just the way we watched Doctor Who, I had assumed when they meant first episode, they meant first serial, but they literally meant first episode, so they just watched the first episode of Spearhead from Space with John Pertwee in the wheelchair, and that's all they saw. And I'm like, well, you gotta watch the whole thing.
Yeah, otherwise, how do you talk about anything?
But it was interesting because some of these folks, like all Doctor Who fans, haven't actually seen the classics, and so they're, it's interesting if you've never seen Classic Who. The pacing's obviously totally different, and a lot of things are different. So, but it was interesting to you just read their comments as things happen. So,
yeah,
cool.
That's worth checking out. Yeah.
And then the second sort of news. I mean, there was a lot of news, but these are sort of the ones that were most on Twitter. Was Eric Roberts returning as the Master for a Big Finish production,
which I sort of think that we should take some sort of credit for, because just last week we were talking about Eric Roberts and how much he influenced Michelle Gomez's reading of The Mistress.
Of course, yes.
So I think that must have put the idea in somebody's head, and you can send royalty checks to our home address. That would be fun.
And I think it'll be interesting because the Big Finish production is, of course, is with River Song meeting the Masters, and it's sort of the ones you don't often see. It's the... I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the one whose voice we heard in one of the Big Finish productions playing the Master, and I was like, oh, he must have been a new one. He was the guy who played it in one episode of Classic Who. That was the voice of the Master that we listened to, and then it's going to be Derek
Jacobi?
Sure,
I don't know.
Who played the Master just for those 2 episodes.
Sorry, I feel like I should know that because he's hugely famous, but I don't, and I can only apologize.
And then Eric Roberts, of course.
Of course.
So that'll be an interesting adventure with River meeting the Masters.
Yeah.
And Missy, I believe. Also,
I sort of was thinking that Missy was in on it. Yeah. Definitely one worth listening to. I still think Alex Kingston's just so amazing. So it'll be a lot of fun to hear what she does with it. And I'm just glad they're continuing to employ her. As per usual.
Yes.
So, change is constant in life and in Doctor Who. Both of those require good people around you. So this week we'll be continuing our companion series with a look at Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor companions. Clara saw him through his regeneration, while Nardole and Bill saw him through grief and more.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that at least with 12... he didn't have as many pickup companions as sometimes the other Doctors do. Mm-hmm. The 10th Doctor had all those special movies. where he sort of had, companion of the TV movie of the day. One,
yes,
the boss,
yeah,
who's now got Michelle. In real
oh
life,
yes, of course,
who's now has her own Big Finish production, which I am slightly looking forward to. But it's stuff like that. And then the 11th Doctor, even with like the line, or not the line, but the wardrobe Christmas special, like he didn't have any of his class. I think there's an Amy scene at the end, but
James Corden coming in,
exactly,
and playing sidekick. Yeah, I suppose not.
But 12 sort of just had Clara. And then Nardole, I guess, was maybe the pickup companion, but then they picked him up
and kept
full time.
Him, yeah.
And then Bill. So.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start at the beginning with, of course, Clara.
With Clara, yes. And she and the 12th Doctor first have their time together in Victorian England with...
Deep Breath.
Is that the title of it?
Yeah, and the gang.
Yes, and the gang, my favorite, and of course the dinosaur.
Yes.
Who?
Tragic end.
Yes, but has a crush on the Doctor, or the Doctor
I think
has
the Doctor has a crush on her.
Yeah,
He's like, don't get any ideas.
Yeah. I do always enjoy when the Doctor can speak, like when he speaks baby.
Right.
And when he can speak dinosaur and things like that. That's always fun to watch.
Yeah, and so with Clara, of course, everyone who's watched it knows, but she's sort of, I don't know what the purpose was, whether it was to maybe be with what Stephen Moffat saw as maybe a fan reaction to the new Doctor or whatever, but, Clara having this reaction of like, who is this guy? And everyone's like, he's the Doctor. She's like, no, he isn't. He's this other guy. And I'm not sure I want to go with him anymore.
To the point where the 11th Doctor has to call her up and tell her to suck it up.
Yeah. And I always remember when I first watched it, or maybe the first couple of times. But anyway, the first few times I saw it, it was sort of a little like, I felt like Clara was supposed to be the audience, and we all needed to be like, don't worry, it's a new Doctor. I know you liked 11, but you'll like 12 too. I'm like, you don't hold my hand, and just do it.
Yeah, just chuck us into the deep end and hope for the best.
It's not, and I get maybe it's the whole 11 was more of a world Doctor, as in like America and everything else, and so maybe this was some fans' first times going through a change.
Yeah.
Whereas, Doctor Who fans...
And it's also a big change. I think the change between 10 and 11, and even to an extent 9 and 10, were not huge, but somebody much older, because with 9, 10, and 11, there's always this undercurrent of romance, even though it almost never plays out in any sort of way. There's always an undercurrent of a frisson of chemistry. And bringing in Peter Capaldi sort of took that, for the most part, out of the equation.
And they were sort of just very, very, upfront about it. He's like, I'm not your boyfriend, And she's like, I didn't think you were. He's like, I didn't say it was your fault or, your mistake. And so it was, but I guess it'll handle it. But anyway, that's Clara is taking a while to get used to the new Doctor, and I don't know, and then you sort of have this whole Danny Pink storyline.
Yes.
With, she's sort of part-time companioning it now, compared to her quote-unquote real life.
Because she got a boyfriend and ditched the Doctor. We all know that story.
Hey, whatever. Other companions have gotten married. It wasn't a big deal.
Oh, yeah, no. And there are times when Danny Pink does travel around with them. In fact, I think that's one of the things that ultimately gets him in trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, though I don't know. The Danny Pink character is always, and this may be an aside, but it always has some problems because both of them, both the Doctor and the Danny, bring out bad things because the Doctor's so anti-soldier, which as a former soldier I find a little much. I get the Doctor doesn't like violence, but there's all these episodes where he's like, I forget, there's a young lady who in one episode where it might have been a potential companion, he's like, oh, if only you weren't a soldier, and then like, bye, shuts the door on her. So it's like, it's a little much. And then Danny's all like, oh, you're an officer, oh, that's the aristocracy, the Time Laws, and so that was a little much as well. I did like, both Danny had a good storyline, with his experience in dealing with everything, and so, but, sometimes it's a little much with those storylines.
Yes, yeah. And I think, to a certain extent, though, I guess I can sort of understand it, because the the companion ideally is somebody who brings the best out. And that's one of the problems that Clara and the Doctor face towards the end, is that they egg each other on. They talk about this, and that their journey together becomes almost manic in pushing each other further and further past good things.
It seemed to me near the end, 11 and Clara did have that whole, like, oh, you know, we'll show up, hey, let's go to a wacky adventure, it's cool, you know, it's just... And then I think with 12, Clara started to kind of take some of the Doctor's characteristics.
Yes, yeah.
And which kind of became dangerous.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. In the same way that River said, you know, the TARDIS only needs one psychopath at a time. And I think it became a dangerous situation. And again, it was Clara's downfall when she's like, yeah, sure, I'll take this thing off your neck.
It's what the Doctor would do.
Yeah, it's fine. And it was not fine. No. And if they just left it, it would have been sorted and it would have been fine. But whatever.
And so, yeah, you sort of have this double story end with Clara, where, you know, she dies in, whatever, something the Raven. I can't remember the name of the episode off the top of my head. But anyway, you know, where she dies, quote unquote. But then we sort of have Hellbent and Heaven Sent. Oh, those are off the top of my head, so I might be wrong with this. But anyway, where the Doctor sort of like is going to break reality in order to get Clara back. And that sort of, you know, so she comes back, quote unquote. And then sort of that's the end, or quote unquote end of Clara and the Doctor. But again,
boy, that's a lot of quote unquote,
yeah,
darling.
But, well, there's no ends in the, you know, Doctor Who, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yeah, that's
because right now she's out there in her TARDIS with
yeah, I want to know when the
what's her name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah. Anya Stark.
Yes.
Is that right, Anya? Anyway.
I have no idea.
Arya. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and I want to know when big production company is going to be Big Finish production company is going to be doing that serial.
Yeah. Well, I think Jenna's still busy with Victoria.
A little bit busy at the moment, yeah. Although Matt Smith's about to come off his term with the Crown, right. So he'll need work. So listen up, Big Finish.
That's right.
Time to get
Matt when he's vulnerable.
Although he's still very pleased that, you know, he made more money. But
yeah.
Anyway, I loved Clara so much with the 11th Doctor and really didn't with the 12th Doctor.
Yeah. I mean, as we've said before, I mean, I won't speak for you, but it seemed in the beginning, in that first series, that when the Doctor was unsure of himself, maybe not the right verbiage, but... You know, it seemed Clara sort of was playing the lead a lot more than the Doctor. And, I mean, it's not or at least, I don't know, I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's like a gender thing, or it's always, I mean, the Doctor should, for the most part, unless it's a dramatic reason, should usually be in charge. And, I mean, when we have a woman Doctor with a 13, she should be in charge, not the companions. So I don't think that's it, but yeah, it's... I mean, of course, I also want a capable companion, right?
Yes, absolutely. But this one, yeah, it just got a bit much for me.
I mean, I think like the Robin Hood episode, Roberts of Sherwood, off the top of my head. But anyway, that's like, it's an early 12 episode, I know, but it's sort of like that's the point of the episode. Yeah. And it's just him and Robin bickering. And so it's like, but yeah. But, you know, like we said, it gets to the point where they both go a little extreme.
Yes. Yeah. 2 psychopaths on a TARDIS. Not a good idea. So then we move on.
We have this sort of... And I do like the storyline. I think it's interesting or better when, as I'm binging, or I don't know if it's a soft binge. I don't know what you call that. the 12th Doctor. I mean, I'm not doing here like 24/7, but as I'm watching my Capaldi complete collection, you know, for those who were watching the 12th Doctor contemporaneously, that's not a word, we sort of had that year without a Doctor. You know, we had the Christmas special with the Husbands of River song, and then nothing except for the next Christmas special, and then you had to wait for the next year until the new series when Bill would come. But watching it without that space of time, you do sort of catch, you know, the Doctor sort of wandering after the death, or at least his mind wipe of Clara, and then finding River, and that sort of brings him up a little bit, but then he has to deal with sort of saying goodbye to her.
Although he gets 24 years to do that.
Exactly, so yeah, now can't complain too much.
No, absolutely.
And then we go with the Return of Dr. Mysterious, so that's not what it's called. But anyway, but then we get Nardole,
Yes.
which is bizarre, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mainly because last time we saw Nardole, he was attached to a monster.
He was inside.
One of the heads of the monster.
Yeah, I noticed that the Doctor rebuilt Nardole, but not River's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Left him there, huh?
Interesting. Yeah, we don't explore that very much, do we? Sort of skip right over that.
But yeah, I thought with Nardole, I remember watching it. It was like so random. Like, why is he back? And that he attached it or rebuilt him or whatever. I'm like, he wasn't a robot in the first place, but okay. Though we're sort of led to believe that. But I also thought they changed the characterization. Like, if you watch the husbands of River Song, that Nardole, I don't think is the same one you see in, like, the last series of 12. Which, I mean, that's not a complaint per se. You can always refine a character. I'm not, but it's, to me, like, man. Like, the first guy was just sort of squirrely. The second guy was more like, I'm really smart and laid back and sort of above this or independent of all things that are going on,
Yeah, although, I mean, because he was working for River Song, that may have been why he wasn't more...
And the Doctor may have improved him when he put them together.
Yeah. Also potentially true, yeah. And I sort of think, if you get the opportunity to get Matt Lucas on for a regular stint, you go with it. So
So what are your Nardole thoughts?
I like Nardole. He grows on me. I did think he was wonderful in that Christmas special of Dr. Mysterio or whatever. And then less so for a while, but then of course by the end he's the hero.
Indispensable.
Indispensable, yeah. And so he's never really, except for in the Dr. Mysterio one, he's never the primary companion.
Right.
I spent some time going, why is he even here? But as always, Stephen Moffat has a bigger plan than I'm aware of.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I mean, not that we haven't had it in New Who, because, I mean, we had Amy and Rory. I mean, the multiple companions instead of just having the single companion. And so, I mean, of course, with 13, we're going to get the boatload of companions.
Yes.
What do you call a group of companions?
Oh, the collective term for a group of companions.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know either. We'll
A question of companions?
Oh, a question I like. A who of companions?
A kidnapped of companions? Trying to think what happens to them.
Yeah. How do they end up there?
A running of companions?
Oh, a running of companions. I like that. Okay. You're very clever, darling. And I don't tend to think of Amy and Rory as multiple companions.
You just sort of couple them?
Yeah.
They're like, Amy, Rory?
Yeah, well, because they are a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very different from Nardole and Bill, who have naught to do with each other. And,
right.
So I do think of it separately. The only reason the Doctor has any sort of relationship with Rory is because of Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case with Nardole and Bill, and it's not the case with really a lot of the other companions where you get the multiples.
And you've seen a little bit, like with the first Doctor when you had Susan, Ian, Barbara.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, Ian and Barbara weren't a couple per se. But, and then I haven't showed you a lot of 5, but, that he sort of has Nissa and Tegan, and then, Turlo. But anyway.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see 3 with all different backstories and how that all works out. It's going to be, do they all come in at the same time?
I can see maybe the 2 younger ones might have some sort of relation of some sort, whether familiar or friendly. Maybe they come as a pair, and then there's Bradley Walsh.
and no matter what his character name is, he's always just going to be
Bradley.
Oh yeah, Bradley Walsh is traveling with the Doctor. That's a thing that happens.
Presenting
The
Adventures of Doctor Who.
Presented by Bradley Walsh. Oh, he's going to be running a game show through the whole thing. Oh, bless. Oh, we should take a little bit of a side trip and mention the film clip you were watching that had...
Yeah, and it was basically compliments of Doctor Who magazine, because they always have this nice little column of like, here's some random videos that are cool to watch, and it was Paul McGann, Peter Capaldi, and Bradley Walsh in some film together.
Some ridiculous film where Bradley Walsh keeps dropping drinks and eventually knocks himself out with a
Exactly.
drink or something.
Being some sort of like Tom Cruise bartender.
Yeah, he's a flair waiter, and So that was fun.
It was.
That was lots of fun. Very young Bradley Walsh, like really early in his career.
I'll say Peter looked young.
Yes.
Though it also made me think that Paul McGann may be timeless, because he kind of looked...
Like Paul McGann? Yeah. Well, and I assume Bradley Walsh always did. So this little clip was a little bit of a surprise.
But yeah, I was always surprised they did keep Matt Lucas. Not for any negative reason. He was good, but it did seem sort of like, okay.
Yeah, and again, is it if Matt Lucas, David Williams was off doing Britain's Got Talent, so Matt Lucas needed something to do for a year or so. Until they got back to Little Britain. I don't know if they've gotten back to Little Britain. I don't think so, but never mind.
So let's bring it back, of course, to the 12th Doctor's last companion, so to speak, and that is, of course,
Bill Potts.
That's right. And I think it's an interesting dynamic, right? You have sort of the whole Clara, either with the 11th or the 12th. I mean, different, obviously, relationships that she had with those two doctors. But, like, I think always a key is establishing a relationship up front, or the dynamic up front. And, like, he's literally her professor or her tutor.
Yes, yeah.
And then, like...
Even though she's not enrolled at the university.
Right. And then just in case you were worried it might be some sort of romantic thing, she's gay, so no.
Yeah, I don't know if that's why they made her gay, but it's a nice addition. I don't have any problem with it. And of course it particularly works with this first episode, where she meets the girl who becomes water. And
Exactly. Which I feel like should be the name of a novel.
Yeah. Something like The Girl That Becomes Water.
Like the dragon tattoo, maybe.
Yeah, the girl with the dragon tattoo, the girl with the water girlfriend. There are all sorts of...
But I think it does, like, say, I imagine Clara, and this isn't necessarily a critique of Clara, but she can always have those sort of goo-goo doll eyes, even at the 12th Doctor. I mean,
well, she's just got those, I mean, and
anime.
She does have those big old anime brown eyes, yeah. And as I was saying it, I was like, well, Bill Potts has got pretty big brown eyes as well, but she uses them differently.
Because I think Clara loved the Doctor, and what kind of love that was, romantic or just, as we mentioned, they're both going to the ends of the universe with 12 Clara. But I think with the whole, there is no romance. I mean, I think Bill obviously, has great affection for the Doctor, but she's not going to have that sort of like...
Starry-eyed. Yeah, I mean, and hers is more of when I think about her looking at the Doctor, it's this bright-eyed excitement kind of thing.
And then I don't know
And Clara never really had that because she was the impossible girl.
Right. Yeah, I think Bill is the first quote-unquote normal companion for a while.
Yeah.
It's not the girl who waited, it's not the impossible, it's just Bill.
Bill, here she is.
Yep.
She serves chips in the cafeteria.
And I don't know how to define...
And makes some girl fat.
Exactly. I made her fat. I fatted her up. But, like, how do you describe that she comes from this... I mean, not any special background, I'm saying, or socio, whatever, but, like, she has this way of seeing things that's so over here. Like it was the whole, what did she call the TARDIS? It's
I don't know. She does. She is the one who says it's bigger, it's smaller on the outside.
Well, she's called it a kitchen, and then she said,
"Oh yes, it's like a giant kitchen."
What was it, like an extension? She said it was. I forget what the British term she used.
Yeah, she thought it was a knock through.
Mm-hmm.
A knock through. It had knocked through another part of the building. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which did bring me back to the Time Lord that we meet, whose office in
Shada
in Cambridge University is his TARDIS,
mm-hmm.
which I kind of love, because then they're confused when the office just disappears. Yeah, she's got an interesting perspective on things.
And she's young, which I think is funny because they're all young. But I guess maybe because it's of this time.
And she's
a
more
millennial.
quintessentially millennial. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that...
the 13th Doctor companions will be, yeah.
Yes, but I think, Clara technically falls under millennial definition. But she's just, she's young, she's hip. Yeah.
She uses emojis.
She uses it. She loves
I guess
the
that's
emojis.
the difference, right? Because Clara was a teacher, literally. And then
Yeah.
Bill is literally a student.
So even though the age difference is not massive, the life experience place is very different. Yeah. Possibly a little throwback to Susan. Even, we see the picture of Susan on the doctor's desk, but this sort of wide-eyed wonder that Susan has, we also see in Bill, I think. And maybe that's one of the things, and maybe that's why we see Susan's picture, is that, the doctor is reminded of Susan in Bill.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting touch there in the pilot, which is literally the first episode of the Bill 12th Doctor series. You had River, which I thought, again, was sort of the continuing story of him getting over, well, not getting over, but you know what I'm talking about, dealing with her loss. And then, but to see the Susan one, I thought was random. But I mean, I guess, of course, quote unquote, of course, you'd have your family photos on your desk, so your wife and your grandchild.
Doesn't have his daughter on there, though.
That's true. Well, there wasn't time to take a Jenny picture, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So, but again, he does have children where her parents, so theoretically, unless he just adopted his granddaughter.
Or Jenny is her mother.
There you go. It's all timey-wimey.
Yeah, everything's very timey-wimey. I think that's just as possible as anything else.
But yeah, there's several dynamics with the Bill stories that she goes through with that, whether it's the Thin Ice, or I'm trying to remember all the different ones she goes through. The one with I forget what they look like. The monks that take over the Earth. I wish
that you could see Phillip waving his arms and flapping them, trying to figure this out.
But the monks that take over the Earth and change everyone's minds. And she has to... So, she definitely gets a chance to experience a lot. And then, of course, we get her on the cyber planet, or the spaceship. The spaceship,
yeah. And I love Bill. I find her delightful. And I'm really sorry that... because I think she and the 13th Doctor would be just dynamite.
That would be a different dynamic.
Although then you're liable to get, a crush or the same sort of frisson between companion and Doctor. But boy, I can just imagine her reaction to a regenerated Doctor. Just such a delight. I just find her just delightful.
Yeah, you didn't say this, but I know what you're in for. A shame she just got one series.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I'm sorry that they killed her off. But hopefully Pearl Mackie is going on to bigger and better things. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Killed her off. I'm doing silent hand quotes.
He does it throughout most of this episode, actually. Yeah, it would be easier to bring River back than it would be to bring Bill back, I would have thought. But, she's technically not dead. She's gone off with the Pond Girl. Not Amy Pond, but the Puddle Girl.
But not River, who's technically a Pond Girl.
It was also the Pond Girl. Sorry, the Puddle Girl. She goes off with the girl in the puddle.
Which, again, is a great book.
Yes, yeah. Another one of the Stieg Larsson. Is that right, Stieg Larsson? I feel like that's the right title. Yeah, so a lot of fun. Sorely missed. Nardole, presumably, is dead as well.
We don't know, but maybe.
Or living on the spaceship on some sort of level.
Yeah, I think he evacuated with the village people, not the village people. And he sort of became their doctor.
Yes, yeah, without the TARDIS though. Right. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of 12, they just sort of blow up the world, don't they?
Yeah, but they all live though.
Missy.
Well, I'm talking about his companions.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Missy was his companion in that last story, but...
And I think live-ish.
Yeah.
Because, again, the Cybermen are going for Nardole. And will arrive at some point. Missy's dead, and Bill's in a puddle.
Right. But she has a companion of her own. Yeah. Not sure who the companion or who the doctor is.
Yeah.
Is that an inappropriate question to ask?
Are you the companion or the doctor? Yeah, no, I think that's inappropriate. Okay. Yeah, that's, ultimately none of your business.
That's right, true.
So,
and then, maybe they're both the doctor, right?
Absolutely. Like Clara and...
The doctor.
And the doctor, strangely enough. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, so shall we jump into the TARDIS library, my darling?
For this one, I thought, since we're talking about the 12th Doctor companions and Clara having to deal with a regenerating doctor and,
And a dinosaur.
That's right. Peter's not that old. But I thought we would go to the very first companions to have to deal with the very first regeneration, and that's with The Power of the Daleks, the second Doctor story, or his first serial, that aired 5 November 1966, where Ben and Polly, the first Doctor's companions, now have a new Doctor for the very first time. And so would you like to read a synopsis from TARDIS.wikia for this 6-part serial?
I would love to. Following the Doctor's regeneration into a new, younger body, the TARDIS lands at an Earth colony on the planet Vulcan in the far future. Mistaken for an official Earth examiner, the Doctor discovers that a scientist called Lesterson is attempting to reactivate 3 inanimate Daleks found in a crashed space rocket. The colonists refuse to heed the Doctor's dire warnings that the Daleks are dangerous. Once reactivated, the Daleks secretly begin to reproduce themselves in a bid to seize control of the Earth colony. Dun dun dun!
So before we get into the subject we're covering, I guess we should actually talk about how we watch this.
It's a cartoon, y'all.
It's a cartoon, y'all, indeed. This is the animated... I don't want to say restoration, that might be the wrong word, but the animated version of the Lost story.
Animated reproduction?
I guess maybe. Sure.
Yeah.
I guess theoretically it is the audio that existed.
Yes, yeah. So basically what happened was BBC decided that they needed to save the pennies, and so recorded over many of the Doctor Who, particularly the second Doctor, many of those episodes. They aired once, they'd done their job, it was time to move on and record something over it. So the audio still exists, but and
telesnaps.
And yes, and some photos of the shoot. And even some little clips.
Yeah, because one of the extras on the DVD of The Power of the Daleks shows the existing footage, which is very, very... it's probably all like 10 minutes, if that...
Yeah,
it tends to always have the beginning and the end of each serial.
And I got the impression that it was the preview reel.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Next week,
next
that sort
on BBC
of thing.
One.
Yeah, exactly. And also, what I think might have actually been an outtake. Am I correct?
I don't know.
That?
Maybe
they do this whole weird Tarleton play on words. They say it over and over and over again.
That was actually in the serial.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
But anyway, I thought... No, I remember when I first watched this on BBC America, they did the animated version of black and white, which is on the second disc that I own. I didn't really think about when I popped in the disc.
We have a lot of things in our house, people.
We do.
You need to know that.
When I just popped in the first disc, had I known it was the color one, I would have not done it. I would have done black and white as it was meant to be. But anyway, we did watch the color version, so I'm sure that'll color our opinions. But anyway, Ben and Polly, the Doctor has gone all wobbly on them and turned into a new one.
Yes, and they're a little confused by this, and don't really have a whole lot of time to process because it's straight on into adventure and death. Yes. And mayhem.
I thought it was interesting the way... obviously, they have to be the audience of, there's a new Doctor, what do we do? And is it the new Doctor? They're asking all the questions that the writers want the audience to be asking. Is this the Doctor? Is this someone? It's the first time we've done this. What's going on?
Yeah, and I think that's important, is that, I suspect the writers, once they decided that
Bill
Hartnell, thank you. Bill Hartnell was no longer viable. He was really beginning to struggle as a performer, and then they were kind of stuck. And somebody in the writer's room said, "What if?" And they were like, "Yeah, okay, let's give it a go and see what happens." And it stuck, but they couldn't have known that they had to figure out the best way they could to make the audience buy this. And now, of course, we're like, yeah, that's a thing that happens. But that was not a thing that happened.
It almost reminds me of, and I can't remember everyone's name, the 12th Doctor story that we discussed with the girl from Game of Thrones, or woman, from Game of Thrones, where he saves her and puts a little thing in her head that makes her live forever. So, because, he wants to be nice, whatever. But here with Doctor Who, they wanted to keep the show going, but they wanted to move on from the main actor without knowing they just made the show immortal.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, without realizing that they just stuck a coin in the forehead of the Doctor, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, even that Polly seems more or less pretty quick to be, accepting that this is the Doctor. I mean, okay, it's different. Yeah, I think so. At one point she says, Doctor, I think so. But she kind of goes, Ben is much more skeptical of who is this guy? What you've done with the Doctor, and what does this mean for us? And I to me, it's not until the Daleks, I'm trying to remember, recognizes quote unquote the Doctor that Ben's like, oh, it recognizes the Doctor, and that sort of, I think, clicks it for him.
Yes, yeah, being able to recognize him despite the fact that he looks completely different sort of clinches it, for Ben.
And I mean, I think the question is always asked then. Every time the Doctor regenerates with a companion, what does this mean now? Do we go or do we stay? Or kind of when they had that Clara moment when they landed, is she going to go home or is she going to stick with this new Doctor?
Yes, yeah.
And I think with Ben and Polly, after going through this whole, misadventure with the Daleks and the colony, I think they sort of keep on trucking.
Do they stay with her? Will stay with the Doctor?
I don't know how much longer, because eventually Jamie's going to come around, and he's sort of like the companion for the second Doctor. So it may not even last a serial or two off the top of my head.
It lasts that first serial, so there is that.
But I mean, they certainly don't seem to be like, well, what are you going to do with us? It seems like it's all just going to keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're absolutely right. What happens, and we haven't seen it yet, because in modern Who, the companion sticks around for at least a season.
Right.
But of course, we'll see it with the 13th Doctor, because everybody's dead.
Well, quote unquote dead.
Yeah. Everybody's dead, or in a puddle. Sorry. Not used to having to qualify that. Dead-ish. Yeah. Oh. So, it'll be interesting. Presumably this is done so that Chris Chibnall has the opportunity to start completely fresh and completely make it what he wants to make it. So that's exciting. But it does mean that there are one of the nice things about a companion staying through after a regeneration is that the audience gets some sort of stability.
Right.
And it's all up in the air. And
literally with the 13th Doctor, though it's coming down very quickly.
Yes, yes. Which is exciting, but we'll see. It's a lot. And that's why I wonder, are they going to bring all three companions in at once? Or are they going to sort of ease us in, give us an episode just with the Doctor as she tries to figure out what her world looks like, and then add people slowly? Or
you just want the Bradley Walsh origin episode.
I'm waiting for that is true on so many levels. I need to know the Bradley Walsh origin story, yes.
But yeah, no, I definitely enjoy the change, because that is Doctor Who, the whole franchise. I mean, whether it's Clara, new companions, new doctors, new regenerations with the second Doctor, and all that. So it's all very interesting. But speaking of changes with companions, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Well, next week we are going to talk basically about whether or not Bill is alive. We're going to look at how the companions do exit. Or how many of them are dead? Some of them are definitely dead. How many of them have gone on? You know, obviously we get Sarah Jane back for a little while in Modern Who. So what happens to the companions after the Doctor has finished with them?
That's an odd way to phrase it, but maybe it's not. Well, until next week, darling, you're my favorite companion and person to be in a puddle with in all of time and space.
Oh, we need to talk about which one of us is the companion and which one of us is the Doctor.
And which is in a puddle.
This is BBC Television.